When I caught Thomas in bed with his mistress, many in our circle didn't believe I had the guts to do it. My family was on the verge of bankruptcy, surviving only through the relief from the Warner family. Thomas was the most important direct heir of the Warner family, arrogant and ruthless, unbound by constraints. Even I was prepared to lose everything. Yet he knelt before me on both knees, right in front of his mistress. "Give me one more chance." I held back every tear, smiling faintly. "Give you a chance, to prove how pathetic I am." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Irregular uterine bleeding led me to the gynecology department, where I encountered an exceptionally beautiful girl. She wore a black Chanel-style pencil skirt, carried a classic Chanel chain bag, and strutted in YSL's signature stiletto heels. Her hair was half-tied, with delicate diamond earrings dangling from her lobes, radiant enough to dazzle the eyes. Perched on the waiting room chair with both feet, she giggled coquettishly into her phone with a friend. "What should I do? I took a test at home and it showed 2 lines, but I'm still in school. I don't believe it. If I were really pregnant, wouldn't I feel something? He doesn't know yet. I don't want to have a baby. It'll make me so ugly." I had just stayed up all night finishing a proposal for my family's company. Ever since my father got scammed by co-signing a loan for someone, our company has been saddled with tens of millions in debt. Fortunately, the Warner family's elders had arranged a marriage alliance for us since childhood. After marriage, Thomas stepped in to help, saving the company from bankruptcy. I had no choice but to seize every opportunity to earn money, working tirelessly to repay the debts as quickly as possible and steer the company back on track. I've been putting off going to the hospital for a whole week. The old-timers at the company are restless, and external suppliers are trying to take advantage of us. My mind was completely occupied with work as I hurried into the hospital. I noticed her because she was wearing the same 4-leaf clover necklace around her neck as mine, a series. The difference being hers was publicly available while mine was a private custom piece only high-net-worth clients could own. What a coincidence, I thought to myself, but seeing how pampered the girl looked, it made sense she could afford such a necklace. Soon, I entered the doctor's office for my appointment. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the girl shyly and happily touching her belly. The examination was quick, just a bit painful, because I hadn't eaten breakfast. I nearly fainted in the clinic when they drew blood. The nurse steadied me. "Why didn't you have a family member accompany you?" I smiled faintly. "It's all right. Thomas is now the CEO of the conglomerate. His schedule is probably even busier than mine. Our marriage was unequal from the very beginning, so I could never learn to presume upon his favor." Physically unharmed, I walked out of the consultation room, recalling the doctor's advice not to put so much pressure on myself. My mind drifting hazily. Thomas messaged me. "You went to the hospital. Why didn't you tell me? What's hurting?" 3 question marks, concern rushing at me instantly dredged up the grievances buried in my heart. Suddenly, I missed Thomas so much. The phone rang for a long time, but he didn't answer. The initial impulse faded a little, yet I remained convinced he'd be happy to hear from me. After the second call also went unanswered, I put away my phone, thinking about picking him up after work and going to his favorite restaurant for dinner. We were just in a marriage of convenience. Yet after countless nights of intimacy, we became inseparable. A black Bentley pulled up at the entrance of the outpatient building. Parking wasn't allowed here, but this car completely ignored the rules, its consecutive license plate numbers exuding understated wealth. Thomas emerged from within, dressed in a black suit with broad shoulders and long legs. His expression meticulously composed. I raised my hand, my heart leaping with joy. The girl rushed out from the elevator entrance and threw herself into Thomas's arms. Like a bird soaring freely, I frowned, a wave of nausea rising within me, and turned my head to vomit everything out. He would never have imagined that while he was affectionately stroking another girl's hair, I was right there watching. The sound of an engine echoed outside the villa. Soon, someone entered the foyer. Thomas froze, handing his briefcase to the maid. "Didn't have to work overtime today." I was curled up on the sofa watching TV. Though I had no idea what was playing on the screen, I was just spacing out. Thomas walked over, loosened his tie, and unbuttoned a few buttons on his shirt. He sat on the edge of the sofa and stroked my hair. I was frozen stiff. Thomas didn't notice and asked with concern, "What did you want to say when you called me this morning?" I turned my back to him. "I'm sleepy." "Are you really sick?" "No." Thomas pondered for a few seconds. "Then you must be tired." His large palm pressed against my shoulder, giving me a massage. He leaned his head closer, bringing with it an elegant woody fragrance. "Darling, you don't need to push yourself so hard. I'll help you solve the funding issues, and I'll also send someone to talk to old who." After speaking, his thin lips lightly brushed my earlobe, even though I resisted him emotionally. An unavoidable shiver still ran through me. I looked at him and said, "I want more." Thomas chuckled and swept me up into his arms, gently bumping his forehead against mine. Now, I realized he'd misunderstood, my heart skipping a beat. With perfect composure, he lifted me from the couch, making me struggle in alarm. "Thomas, it's only 6. To my surprise, he set me down at the dining table instead, his slender arm braced against my chair back as he leaned impossibly close. Thin lips curling into a faint smile. "What are you thinking about? Eat your food." I breathed a sigh of relief, then awkwardly scratched my cheek. Thomas served me soup, saying meaningfully as he handed it over, "The rest, I'll feed you tonight." What used to be playful banter now felt nauseating after witnessing that scene earlier. I remained expressionless. After dinner, Thomas received a phone call, asked the servant to bring his coat, and prepared to go out. "Business this late?" Thomas looked as usual. "Overtime work." He added, "I'll bring you wontons when I come back." The turning point in our relationship was the wonton from that old shop in the northern part of the city. Back then, I had just married him, trembling with fear, terrified of losing the Cheng family's last pillar of support. Thomas was aloof and never showed me any particular affection. It was the day I had a fever and mistook him for someone in my dream. I acted spoiled without thinking. Insisting on eating wonton from that shop before I take my medicine, Thomas had no choice but to drive there himself to buy it. The villa was located in the western part of the city, a good hour and a half's drive from the shop in the north. When he returned, he found me leaning against the headboard, drenched in sweat, my lips pale and my cheeks flushed with embarrassment. As he opened the food container, he chuckled, "Mrs. Warner, I didn't know you could still blush." I tugged at Thomas's sleeve. "Can't you just stay?" He froze for a moment. I never used to ask him to stay, because of the family's bankruptcy. I'd trained myself to bury rationality and restraint deep in my bones. His eyes softened as he looked at me, about to put down his coat. I changed my mind. "Never mind. I'd rather have wontons." Thomas as he got into the car. I stood under the eaves with a faint smile, watching him leave. "Husband, I love you." He sat in the back seat, his expression as aloof and indifferent as ever, lifting his head upon hearing the words. The car happened to drive away. He had no time to respond. Turning his head, he looked at me through the rear window. I'm still smiling, with the last glimmer of twilight casting an exceptionally tender glow upon my face. In my heart, I hope Thomas will forever remember this moment when I said I loved him. The afterglow lingers, where clouds meet the wilderness, fortunately, in countless moments to come. The pain will be unbearable. Actually, shortly after leaving, Thomas sent me a message, "If you don't want me to go, I'll come back. The driver hasn't gone far yet." I replied, "You'd better go, no need to look back." That night, he came back very late. When he sat by the bed, leaned down to embrace me already asleep, his body carried the unfamiliar scent of shower gel. It was fresh and sweet, instantly bringing to mind the girl standing on a chair, cooing into the phone with a friend. Thomas's murmur held no trace of desire, just calling me wife in the unlit room, magnetic yet tinged with a hint of obsession. It's utterly captivating. I knew he'd eaten his fill outside, guilt gnawing at his heart. Even the promised wontons he was supposed to bring me were completely forgotten. He had to hold me tight, confirming my existence remained within his sphere of control. Only then would he feel secure. I turned over to face him, in the dim light. Our expressions were indistinct to each other. Only my muffled, aggrieved voice stood out with peculiar clarity. "Thomas, why did you come back so late?" I don't usually speak like this, stretching my arms out from under the blanket to wrap around his waist, like a lost kitten searching for its mother, clinging helplessly to its only refuge. Thomas wanted nothing more than to crush me into his very bones. "Lena, don't talk like that, you're breaking my heart," I wondered skeptically. Does this little pain of his even count as pain? The next day, I privately sought out Thomas's assistant. "I want to know everything." Sitting in the cafe, I came straight to the point. Thomas's assistant concealed a flicker of surprise in his eyes and offered an obsequious, awkward smile. "Madam, what would you like to know?" I smiled faintly. Today, I wasn't wearing a suit or a pencil skirt. Instead, a soft, light-colored dress draped over me, my hair cascading over my shoulders. My makeup understated. I'm afraid the person across from me had forgotten I am not just Mrs. Warner, but also CEO Cheng, Assistant Stephen. "How many years have you worked beside Thomas?" Answering, "Madam, 10 years. "How long have I been married to him?" "You and Mr. Thomas have been married for 3 years. A wicked smile lurked in my eyes. "You tell me, 10 years versus 3. Who do you think would win?" Assistant Stephen paled, wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. "I don't understand what you mean." Leaning across the desk, I told him plainly, "Either you tell me about Thomas and that woman, or hand in your resignation and get out." Assistant Stephen rose from his chair, his face a mask of fear and conflict. I looked up and asked, "Do you think Thomas would dote on me like this?" Casually touching someone close to him, especially his chief assistant, Assistant Stephen answered without hesitation, "He would." I smiled contentedly and continued, "You understand him well, but not enough about me. Perhaps you're holding on to hope, thinking that with 10 years of experience by Thomas's side, switching to another company wouldn't be impossible. Unfortunately, I'm someone who doesn't play by the rules. I won't stop until I achieve my goal." Assistant Stephen's eyes had lost their spark. I stood up to wipe his sweat and softened my tone. "Tell me, and I promise to keep it confidential, you won't be implicated in the slightest. In this situation, do you really think you can still cover for him? It's time to turn back. I've always admired you. That girl is called Mandy, because the Warner family's luxury brand advertisement chose her as the spokesperson. She got to know Thomas," Assistant Stephen said. "This girl threw herself at Mr. Thomas." Mr. Thomas frowned for the first time, and the bodyguard stopped her. "But such a young girl, still in college, Mr. Thomas couldn't do anything about her," I scoffed. "What do you mean couldn't do anything? It's just that he saw she was young and beautiful, and his heart softened." It turns out Thomas's soft-heartedness wasn't just directed at me. Later, at a business dinner, the girl got drunk and collapsed onto Mr. Thomas, who happened to be passing by the door. Her small hands clutched Mr. Thomas's clothes and wouldn't let go. She had been drugged by the nouveau riche, and that's why Mr. Thomas, finally, the assistant added, "She was such a young girl." Mr. Thomas couldn't bear to see her like that. I went to the dance academy at a university. The lakeside willows sway gently, the blue waves ripple, surrounded by the cheerful laughter of students. For a moment I felt as if I had grown very old, yet I'm only 27, just days ago. I was still insisting that Thomas spin me around in celebration after passing an ingenious proposal. The spacious and bright dance studio. My eyes immediately landed on Mandy. The girl wore her hair in a bun. Dressed in pure white practice attire, revealing delicate collarbones and a slender neck, her delicate yet alluring features and subtly mature figure were strikingly eye-catching. They happened to be on a break, stretching with their hands hooked behind the railing, their shoulder lines graceful. "Mandy, that new workout outfit of yours must have cost a fortune, right?" Mandy gave a light hum. "My boyfriend brought it back from the States. Heard it cost $5,000, some niche brand." Gasps of admiration rippled through the crowd. Someone chimed in, "Mandy, just who is this boyfriend of yours? I saw you stepping out of a Bentley the other day." Not just that, the other day Mandy was live streaming. And guess how much her boyfriend donated? Listening to their conversation, I couldn't believe they were actually talking about Thomas. Wasn't he the one who hated wasting time online the most? He even had an account specifically to flaunt his relationship with others. I quickly found the account they were talking about. Thomas hardly ever posts, but promptly responds to Mandy's every update. Mandy posted her weight, whining about how she'd gained weight. Thomas replied below, "You fainted in my arms last time, and you still dare say you're fat," Mandy said sweetly. "Daddy, I was wrong. Thomas, if you dare, come say it to my face." "Mandy, I'm not that stupid," Thomas said dotingly. "Yes, our baby is the smartest. Take good care of yourself." I called Thomas. "What's wrong? What are you doing?" Thomas paused briefly. "In a meeting." My fingers hesitated slightly. Thomas had recently been occupied with a high-level cross-border strategic project. Yet he took my call. "Can you skip the meeting and stay with me?" After saying this, I tugged at the corner of my lips in self-mockery while facing the window. Who gave me the audacity to make such an unreasonable request to Thomas? Thomas remained silent for a long while before asking where I was. I said, "Big A." The silence on the other end grew heavier. "Forget it. I won't disturb you." I was about to hang up. "Half an hour," he said, his tone gentle, carrying a faint trace of indulgence. "He's coming to see me any minute now." When he arrived, Thomas had a fleeting moment of unease. I pretended not to notice, only saying I missed the desserts at the back gate of University A. Thomas loosened his tie, took my hand, and headed straight for the food street. Clearly I'm the one who graduated from University A, while he's an Ivy League elite from overseas, yet he seemed more familiar with that road than I was. The shopfront was old but clean. Its owner having worked hard to prosper and expand into 2 storefronts. Both front and back doors were plastered with posters of celebrities popular among students these days, creating a pleasant atmosphere. The temperature was neither too hot nor too cold, just perfectly comfortable. I ordered my all-time favorite mango pomelo sago. The mango and coconut milk ratio is the owner's secret recipe, rich, sweet, and refreshing. Thomas remained silent. Perhaps it was because cancelling a high-level meeting involving hundreds of millions just to drink mango pomelo sago with me here left him utterly speechless. Or perhaps, He was thinking of someone unspeakable. He was still gentle. His thumb wiped away the milk stain from the corner of my mouth. His thin lips curved slightly. I was taken aback. A bowl of mango pomelo sago was quickly emptied. I'm waiting for Thomas to show his cards. He looked at me, yet he just gazed at me dotingly, utterly focused. Caught in his stare, for a moment I madly entertained some unrealistic hopes, until he grabbed me and dragged me toward the back door. I was wearing high heels, 7-centimeter stilettos, put on specifically for the morning meeting to boost my presence. Just moments ago, when we entered through the front door, Thomas held my hand and reminded me to be careful. Now, he showed no such consideration. Just as I stepped off the back door stairs, I twisted my ankle, sending a sharp pain shooting through it. My body collapsed onto Thomas, steady and warm. I seemed to sense something and turned my head. At the front door, Mandy stood chatting and laughing with friends while ordering at the counter. A chilling sensation swept through my entire body as blood rushed from my limbs to the crown of my head before violently reversing its course. An agitated swell of emotion pressed against my chest, something desperate to break free. Thomas pursed his lips when he noticed my discomfort, gritting my teeth against the pain in my ankle. I pushed him away. He wanted to protect me, but I brushed his hand away. Thomas, remember this clearly, I'm still your wife. Why should I be the one to step aside for that woman who can't even show her face in daylight? Thomas had never been humiliated like this before. The initial tenderness gradually faded from his eyes, his face turning ashen as he silently pulled me away from the dessert shop. Even at such a moment, he still remembered not to frighten Mandy. The atmosphere in the car was tense, shutting out all external noise. Thomas was driving himself, in a Cullinan. I tugged at my lips, my wrist bearing a red mark from his grip. Thomas lifted my chin, his gaze arrogant. Lena, know your place. I turned my head away, failed, because his thumb dug into me painfully. My face paled slightly. Thomas only then noticed and let go as if scalded. His large hand rested on the steering wheel as he turned to look at me again. Lena, you're not just my wife now, but forever, for this lifetime. I bit my lip and paused for a moment. It made me realize my place. This is what it truly meant. Unconsciously, the pain in my chest grew sharper. A ringtone shattered the silence. Thomas didn't wait for my response. A flicker of disappointment passed through his eyes. Though it didn't show, I answered the call. The assistant informed me that our partner company was demanding an additional $10 million investment from us. Not a huge sum, but difficult for the Cheng family that had just regained its footing. Did you remind him we signed an agreement at that dinner? The boss said the letter of intent doesn't have sufficient legal binding force, and there's no penalty clause stipulated. He can still back out. I closed my eyes, feeling helplessness creeping up from the depths of my heart. Thomas hadn't started the car for a long time. I locked eyes with him. His gaze was steady, yet I could read his meaning. Beg me. 10 million means nothing to Thomas. At times like these, my pride matters far less than the company's interests. I still didn't speak. Thomas curled his lips and let out a light scoff. The entire way, he didn't say a single word to me, his expression grim. When we got home, he drove off immediately, speeding off swiftly, leaving me choking on exhaust fumes. He hasn't come home for 3 days. I go to work as usual, but wake startled every night, clutching my collar while gasping for air. I remember Mandy showing off to her classmates, $5,000. It always hurts so much I can barely breathe. One night, Thomas's gang of good-for-nothing friends called me, sis-in-law. Thomas is drunk. Could you come pick him up? They were the darlings of heaven, looking down on everyone, yet their attitude toward me was respectful. I said Thomas has a driver. The man opposite hissed. Thomas keeps calling your name. The driver won't do. I smiled. But I should be getting my beauty sleep. You're really cruel, sister-in-law. I hung up the phone. I glanced at the clock. Midnight. Instead of reaching for the sleep spray as usual, I sat down at the dressing table and began applying makeup with deliberate slowness. The eyebrow pencil traced delicate arches. Contour dusted my nose, and I chose Kiss of Flame lipstick, bold and unapologetically vibrant. I chose a black pearl sheen spaghetti strap maxi dress, paired with a matching long coat. The high heels were adorned with pastel ribbons wrapped around my calves, complementing my fair skin beautifully. The makeup was so strikingly gorgeous that it could make everything around me pale in comparison. I'm accustomed to wearing serious and appropriate makeup in the workplace, rarely dressing up like this. Assistant Stephen gave me a look of awe when he saw me at the hotel, followed immediately by shock. I have no patience left as I press the elevator button for the 43rd floor, pushing open the door to the presidential suite. I came fully prepared, even brought our marriage certificate and a lawyer, so the hotel had no choice but to comply. The faint scent of alcohol lingers in the room. The girl screamed as the figure beside her grabbed a blanket to cover her body. I walked in step by step in my stilettos, not forgetting to turn on the overhead light. The blinding brightness made my black dress and heavy makeup accentuate my ghostly appearance. Thomas irritably pressed his fingertips to his brow, his broad shoulders and pectoral muscles taut with tension, though I had no mind to appreciate them in that moment. I picked up my phone to gather evidence first, when I caught Thomas in bed with his mistress. Many in our circle couldn't believe I had the audacity to do it. Arrogant and ruthless, he was a man who refused to be tamed. I was prepared to lose everything, so I acted with even greater resolve. Outside the suite, countless lights twinkled against the ink-black night. Inside, the lingering warmth of passion now mingled with the girl's quiet sobs. I am like a detestable destroyer, tearing apart all decency. Who knows if what lies ahead isn't an abyss? Yet Thomas pulled up his pants and knelt before me in front of Mandy, the pride of heaven, with 10,000 taels of gold beneath his knees. He offered up his own self-respect with both hands. Give me one more chance. His voice was hoarse and barely audible. I held back every tear, smiling faintly. Give you a chance. To prove how pathetic I am. Thomas looked shocked for a fleeting moment. I closed the door for him. There's no discussing it. Let's get a divorce. The news spread throughout the entire circle overnight. Some were curious about who that girl was. Others wondered, weren't Thomas and I in an arranged marriage? How could there be feelings involved? But more than anything, it was a sense of schadenfreude. How long has the Cheng family been back on its feet after the bankruptcy crisis? Lena dared to challenge Thomas. Is she tired of living? Thomas didn't agree to the divorce and kept showing up at the company, without saying why. He bought outrageously expensive afternoon tea and booked a year's worth of flowers. The assistant happily carried white roses into the office. President Cheng, the Warner family has given us a major project, which just offsets the losses from our previous failed collaboration. That day, I returned to the marital home. It had been 2 months since catching them in bed. I calmly changed my shoes and set down my bag. The servant hesitated, opening their mouth uncertainly before finally forcing an awkward smile. You're back, they said. Thomas was cooking in the kitchen, his black shirt tucked under an apron that accentuated his narrow waist and firm hips. The warm yellow light softened his usually sharp demeanor. It's raining outside, are you cold? He asked while coating the ingredients with starch. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't expect you to know how to cook. I've been learning it recently when I was bored. 4 dishes and a soup were quickly served. Pan-fried pork ribs, spicy fish scales, smoked cod, blanched choy sum, and creamy clam chowder. He kept busy serving me dishes with serving chopsticks. Eating very little himself, he gently picked up a tissue and wiped the corner of my mouth, reminding me to eat slower. Eating too fast is bad for your stomach, and bad for me too. I tried hard to ignore the implication in his words. After finishing the meal, I thanked him for his hospitality and was even more grateful for CS project he gave me. The living room was empty, with the soft, lingering light gently enveloping just the two of us. Thomas is noble and unassuming, never forcing anything. He playfully wrapped his arms around my waist from behind. Honey, can we not get divorced? His face pressed against my neck, his voice choked with emotion. That day when you said you loved me, why didn't I respond? I love you too, one drop. Then 2 tears fell on Thomas's hand. He froze, then turned me around, fumbling in a fluster. He grabbed tissues to wipe my tears. Mr. Thomas, may I leave now? All right. He took my hand, opened the door, and helped me into the car. I dared not ask him to stay. The car window rolled up as the vehicle drove away. In the rearview mirror, a figure stood for a long time, facing the damp, chilly drizzle. I wiped away my tears expressionlessly, picked up the documents to analyze how to reduce project costs, then called my assistant to prepare for the executive meeting tonight. Getting a divorce now would be exactly what Mandy wants, and I'm not ready for that yet. Besides, I've said it, I want more. The next day, my assistant happily informed me that Warner's branch had several business deals specifically requesting CS to handle. Their manager said they value General Manager Cheng's capability and decisiveness. Not deliberately offering benefits, I chuckled, then prepare some appropriate gifts to thank them. Soon, on our 4th wedding anniversary, Thomas booked the entire restaurant to celebrate with me. I arrived just in time as a row of elegant square lamps lit up by the lakeside. Walking along the path, my shoes grew slightly damp. The lake's depths were dark and unfathomable, impossible to see through at a glance. Willow branches brushed the water's surface, stirring ripples that took on dreamlike hues in the twilight. I knew he was afraid I wouldn't come. Having gone through the trouble of booking this restaurant, I had reposted it on social media. Before, he never paid attention to such things. Thomas was gentlemanly and witty when he truly lowered himself to charm a woman. No one could resist that allure. I took a small bite of pudding, unable to hold back laughter at his joke. Thomas paused briefly, his eyes lighting up with emotion. He grasped the back of my hand, preventing me from pulling away. Darling, no divorce, Mr. Thomas, Ms. Lena. Thomas withdrew his hand and sneered, Ms. Lena, you say that so smoothly. Been busy with blind dates lately. I paused, just my best friend setting me up, right now. I couldn't be bothered to explain. To Thomas, this attitude came across as arrogant and unrepentant. A surge of anger rose from the depths of his heart. It's fine if you always give me the cold shoulder. But the thought of me embracing someone else was unbearable to him. He blurted out angrily, do you know why I accepted Mandy? Because she knows how to act cute, depends on me, and always has only me in her eyes and heart, not like you, Lena, always buried in work. I said I'd provide for you but you wouldn't listen. Could it be that the vast Warner family can't support one woman? Have you ever truly loved me? His voice trembled with emotion, his face slightly pale. I opened my mouth. I recalled his words one night, when you finally stand as my equal, I'll crown you with my own hands. I thought he understood the despair and cruelty I endured after the Cheng family went bankrupt. My father lay in the ICU after creditors attacked him, while all my bank accounts were frozen. My mother was sobbing uncontrollably, nearly driven to suicide. I picked up the wine glass and splashed it on Thomas's face, then clenched my fists and walked out without looking back. A massive crystal chandelier hung from the restaurant ceiling, swaying slightly in the stronger breeze. Before I could gather my thoughts, Thomas pulled me into his arms and led me aside. With a loud bang, the crystal lamp fell, shattered into pieces, and fragments scattered everywhere. Thomas had his back injured, letting out a muffled groan. I asked him, does it hurt? He gritted his teeth and endured for a long moment before weakly saying, take me to the hospital. As I tried to remove his coat, extensive bruising was inevitable, and severe fractures were likely. Tears welled in my eyes as I helped him up. He had risked his life to save me. How could I not be deeply moved? At the end of the lakeside path stood Assistant Stephen. No one stepped forward, understanding Thomas' thoughts perfectly. He had been enduring the pain with great effort, yet beads of sweat still formed on his forehead. I comforted him. The hospital is very close. Leaning on me later will make you feel more comfortable. Bear with it. I dare not give you painkillers now. What if it causes some chronic condition? If it hurts, just say so. Don't hold it in. I couldn't help but sigh. Thomas stopped walking and laughed, grinning foolishly, eyes rimmed with red. By the lakeside, waves frolic with the wind, whispering rustling sounds. Darling, you promised not to divorce me, or else I won't leave. I'll just lie here. I drew a sharp breath. Thomas, how can you still be this childish at a time like this? Thomas said. I really don't want to leave. I caught a faint whiff of blood. His coat was torn. Furious, I took 2 steps before turning back. I don't want such an immature man, I said. Thomas froze, his eyes lighting up with overwhelming delight. Blood dripped onto the path, and the pain in his back vanished. You mean, if you're good to me, would you? Mandy rushed over. Thomas had no time to answer. She wept pitifully, dressed in a thin white dress, her makeup perfectly accentuating her delicate vulnerability. Her high ponytail fluttered defiantly against the cold wind. Thomas, it took me so much effort to find this place. Thomas looked at her with icy detachment. Didn't we agree it was over? Mandy's gaze seemed on the verge of shattering, her body swaying as if a mere breeze could topple her. If you don't want me, at least take the child in my belly. Mandy looked at me. Mrs. Warner, I beg you. Please give my child a complete family. I'd rather drop out of school than lose Thomas. I remained silent for a moment before delivering a resounding slap across Mandy's face. Thomas paled slightly but didn't stop her. Mandy covered her cheek and wailed at Thomas. Thomas didn't want to engage. Can you just calm down? Mandy instantly fell silent, then laughed bitterly. Now I'm annoying you. Well, I'll do something even more irritating. Go ahead and kill me if you dare. She pushed me into the lake with all her strength. Caught off guard, my body was instantly enveloped by the icy lake water. Thomas tore off his coat ready to jump in, his white shirt stained with mottled blood on the back. Mandy grabbed Thomas and refused to let go. I'm carrying your child. If you push me now, it'll be 2 lives lost. Thomas, could you really bear that? Thomas was breathing heavily, his chest heaving violently as he let go. Stephen, the special assistant, and the bodyguards, who had been keeping their distance out of discretion, rushed over immediately. No more than a minute had passed. But Thomas, you didn't save me. When I was carried ashore, my chest was clogged with water, and I only regained consciousness after receiving artificial respiration. I looked at Thomas with a faint gaze. Thomas knelt on the ground, ignoring his own injuries. Just 10 minutes ago, he had been willing to sacrifice his own life to protect me. Does it hurt? Lena, say something. He grew frantic, tears welling up stubbornly at the corners of his eyes. Someone gasped, "Blood." Thomas froze for a few seconds before looking down at my thigh. A large swath of blinding blood flowed out, mingling with the icy, bone-chilling lake water, blending into an eerie crimson. The pain was so intense that even though I wanted to keep a straight face, I couldn't help but furrow my brow tightly, feeling as if I were about to die. Thomas had never encountered such a situation before. Collapsing to the ground with his gaze losing focus, Mandy dared not speak, her eyes wide with terror. As I was lifted onto the stretcher, I clung desperately to Thomas's hand. I had to tell him personally, enunciating each word clearly. "Our child is gone, killed by your own hands." He could have held me back. He could have prevented all of this, but he didn't. Outside the hospital ward, Mandy was sobbing uncontrollably. Thomas angrily demanded, "Can't you even tell whether you're pregnant or not?" Mandy said, "The home test showed 2 lines. I was afraid the doctor might have misdiagnosed me, so I chose to make you happy first." Thomas said, "Mandy, you're just a mistress. Why would I be happy about you carrying an illegitimate child? It was only a sense of responsibility before. I could have had a legitimate child, but because of you, everything is ruined. Get out of my sight." I stared at the ceiling, my mind a complete blank. Thomas hesitated at the doorway when he pushed the door open, nervously licking his lips. He walked to the bedside, clenched his fists, his tousled hair casting shadows across his forehead. I said, "What? Do you want to kneel for me again?" Thomas felt so heartbroken he was nearly in tears, grasping my hand. "Lena, don't say that. If you're sad, just cry it out." "I'm not sad." Thomas rubbed his thumb over the back of my hand. "Then does it hurt?" I thought for a moment and nodded. "It hurts quite badly. Feels like someone's tugging at my lower abdomen while hammering away mercilessly, like my bones are about to shatter from the pain." Thomas had red-rimmed eyes, his Adam's apple bobbing. After a long pause, his voice came out hoarse. "I never expected you'd fall into the water. I've been too indulgent with her. How I envy her." Thomas never thought I'd say this and quickly responded, "Then let's get a divorce." He froze. "I don't want to argue with you anymore, this time." Thomas readily agreed to the divorce. Guilt tore at his heart. I have no doubt that he would gladly die right now if asked, but letting him die like this would be too easy for him, and it wouldn't benefit me. I took Thomas half of his fortune. Originally, for prestigious family marriages like ours, prenuptial agreements were mandatory. Back then, we had no emotional foundation, so we signed the agreement according to the rules. Had I divorced him decisively earlier, I wouldn't have gotten Thomas's money, but now, he willingly handed over half his assets without hesitation. After he relented, I took the initiative to hold his hand. Her fingers tightened around his, one by one, gripping so hard that tears fell unexpectedly. No longer wanting to hide any grievances, I cried and said to him, "Thomas, it hurts so much. Why does it hurt this bad?" Thomas stroked my hair over and over, soothing softly, "Bear with it a little longer. Lena, it's all my fault." My body trembled as I buried my head against his chest. Too thin, the bones made his heart ache with their sharpness. If only the child were still here. I'd even thought of names. It wouldn't matter if it was a boy or girl. They'd both be our treasure. I looked up and asked Thomas, my expression foolish, "If I'd carried it to term, no matter what happened between us, you'd have been good to it, wouldn't you?" Thomas felt his heart ache so badly he could barely breathe. Of course, if only it were still here. He lost himself in his imagination. I silently watched Thomas, my expression innocent. Only by making him truly experience pain and regret could I cleanly get my share of the money. I never once considered keeping this child from start to finish. Mandy was only able to find this place because I shared the address online. That day at the hospital, Thomas's unanswered call completely altered the course of our destinies. If he hadn't been in such a hurry to pick up Mandy, he would have heard me say it with my own voice. "Thomas, you're going to be a father." It's said that Thomas's division of assets has caused dissatisfaction among the group's board of directors, leading to stock price fluctuations. Thomas is too young. The Warner family elders took turns lecturing him about not indulging in romantic affairs. They even went so far as to threaten him with demotion. The boardroom was as noisy as a vegetable market. Thomas had received aristocratic upbringing, refined, proper, and above all, filial piety was paramount. This was the persona he crafted for himself, securing his position as heir apparent early on. Thus, from beginning to end, he never uttered a word of rebuttal, only when an elder remarked, "Lena is nothing but a scheming gold digger." Thomas suddenly smashed his teacup. The central screen was splattered with tea stains, dotted with a few tea leaves that slowly slid down the pristine white curtain. The crowd fell silent, staring in disbelief at the young man. Thomas remained expressionless. "She was carrying my child." A teardrop fell, dampening the document's cover. When people in our circle learned about my divorce from Thomas, they were all waiting to see me become a laughingstock. Many said it wasn't unusual for men in wealthy circles to keep mistresses, questioning why I took it so seriously. Even Thomas's elders had kept young mistresses, some younger than me. I'm well aware of this, because for those at the pinnacle of the pyramid, women are merely a resource. They possess the power to acquire more resources and care little about moral constraints, but I refuse to trample upon my own sincerity. It has nothing to do with Thomas, nor with Mandy. It's only about the fact that I once genuinely loved a man. I gave him all my trust, believing he loved me the same way. I devoted all my time to work, relying on projects indirectly funneled by Thomas, and CS made a remarkable comeback. And because of the assets I received, CS gained additional startup capital to expand production capacity and enter new industries. Today's CS is no longer the struggling distressed asset company people once talked about, but a firm with top-tier tech talent, a scientific management system, and the scale to rank among China's first-tier enterprises. I'm at the peak of my glory. Only my parents feel sorry for me, saying, "Lena, we'd rather Lena weren't so successful, at least it would mean her marriage was happy." I don't think so. In the past I was a Warner, required to maintain a dignified posture in all matters, no greed, no scheming, always proper and docile, humble and pure. Thomas only thinks about pampering. But in business, one must act like a man, shameless, fearless, willing to stake everything to achieve one's goals, no matter how awkward the stance may appear, as long as one's conscience is clear. This victory rightfully belongs to oneself. Only by being a man can one defeat a man. I refuse to let them sever my limbs and then preach to me that dignity is the ultimate truth. My family's dominant industries are in real estate, shipping, and machinery manufacturing. To expand our influence, we must penetrate the Warner family's upstream channels, seek technological collaboration, and connect resources. I heard Thomas faced significant dissatisfaction from many senior members within the group due to the divorce settlement and his funneling benefits to me. Some even demanded his removal as CEO during a board meeting. Fortunately, being the recognized heir of the Warner family's main lineage helped him temporarily resolve the crisis. On the day of the Warner family group's bidding, I clearly noticed Thomas had lost weight. His facial features appeared more chiseled and resolute, his gaze indifferent and sharp, even more unapproachable than before. Someone bumped into me from behind, scattering my documents. "MS. Lena, a woman should stay properly at home instead of mingling with men. She's just asking for humiliation." I recognized him as TY Industries' Mr. Wade, today's competitor. After he walked away, my assistant and I picked up the documents. A pair of distinctly veined hands suddenly reached out, fingertips brushing lightly before recoiling. Looking up, my eyes met Thomas's. It felt like a lifetime since we last saw each other. "Long time no see, Mr. Thomas." Thomas responded with a simple I quickly picked it up, not wanting to give anyone cause for gossip. "I still need to help refine the bid documents, so I won't chat more with Mr. Thomas for now." Thomas stopped me, saying calmly, "Don't waste your effort." I turned to look at him, searching for meaning. The assistant told me in the preparation room that TY Industries has intricate connections with Warner family's second-largest director, Samuel. I heard Ty's silent shareholder is none other than Samuel, though it violates company regulations. It's been going on for years, plus, his Mr. Thomas's third uncle, who dares to say anything. Mr. Wade was drinking coffee in the hallway with several executives from the Warner family, his boisterous laughter piercing through the door. As I looked at the results of my team's month-long hard work, I realized the bottleneck in CS's strategic development lay precisely in the resources currently controlled by the Warner family. I've got a bit of a headache. The bidding process consists of 3 rounds, with half of the candidate companies eliminated each time. By the end of the second round of PPT presentations, the atmosphere in the meeting room had become intensely competitive, with representatives from each company barely containing their emotions. At that moment, lighting a single cigarette could have ignited the entire meeting room. The air conditioning is too strong. At this moment, I couldn't help but cough a few times. Everyone turned to look. Mr. Wade was the first to attack, saying, "MS. Lena, if you're feeling cold, you can leave immediately. Don't ruin the atmosphere here. Women are always so delicate. What great things can they possibly achieve?" Thomas sat in the central seat, lightly tapping the table with his knuckles. "Mr. Wade, mind your language. Am I wrong? What else could a woman like her rely on to get by here besides men?" Thomas smirked coldly. Mr. Wade seems quite familiar with the method. Must have employed it himself. Mr. Wade flared up. "What do you mean by that? He's only this arrogant because he's relying on Samuel." I pushed back my chair. "Excuse me, I need to step out for a moment." after glancing at Thomas. Thomas indeed followed me out, caught a cold. Thomas asked with concern at the end of the corridor. I pulled him along and pushed open the fire exit door, leaning in to kiss him, the entanglement in the dim light. The warmth transmitted through soft lips, everything left Thomas stunned. He tried to push me away. I tugged at him with a light laugh, just thanking Mr. Thomas for speaking up for me earlier. Thomas hadn't been with a woman in ages. Drywood meets fierce fire. One spark was all it took, but after kissing for a minute, he stopped himself in time. Lena, don't give people anything to gossip about. His eyes are so gentle. The third round of bidding has begun. My team and I submitted the revised project proposal according to the Warner family's requirements, even staking CS's cash flow on it. That Mr. Wade looked disdainful, squinting as he waited for Thomas to announce the winning bid. We won. He slammed the table hard and stood up. Impossible. He pointed at Thomas. Everyone knows Lena is Mr. Thomas's ex-wife. Isn't this just favoring his own woman? At last, the dust settled. I threw the documents right in Mr. Wade's face with a loud smack. I already said ex-wife. Does Mr. Wade not understand what those two words mean? Should I have the company's legal team give Mr. Wade a crash course in basic law? CS won the bid fair and square. I'm willing to bring in a third-party agency to evaluate the proposals from both CS and TY. The question is, does Mr. Wade dare? Mr. Wade guiltily rubbed his nose and glanced at Samuel. The latter made no comment. Of course they didn't dare. After the meeting adjourned, Mr. Wade gave me a cold smile. Don't think I don't know you must have schemed against Thomas. Mr. Wade is wise. But, so what? In the fire escape, Thomas said helplessly. Take the project. Just stop recruiting me. Even when he was cornered from all sides, he was still willing to cheer me up. I shook my head. I just want fairness. Such scheming, I have no qualms about it, because cunning is inherently part of one's capabilities. While I was busy with the Warner family's project, Mandy made her official debut with her pretty face and an innocent yet seductive figure. Unfortunately, she was banned immediately after her debut. Gossip accounts exposed her for knowingly being the other woman in an affair, as well as faking a pregnancy to climb the social ladder. In the end, Mandy left without even getting her diploma, slinking away in disgrace. I meticulously preserved all the evidence of her infidelity, recording it in time. I wanted to drag her down from her pedestal at the height of her glory, to let her taste the bitterness of having nothing. Thomas found me. I asked him, "Are you here to demand an explanation?" After all, Mandy was once his darling. Now many people also know about his scandal. Thomas said, "How could I bear to?" I froze for a moment, tightening my grip on the water glass. "But I hope you'll clear her name. It doesn't matter about me. But don't ruin her. She's only 21. With so much wonderful life ahead of her, she's still just a naive little girl who doesn't understand anything. I ruined her. Was it me who forced her to be your mistress, who forced her to fake a pregnancy to win your favor? Or was it me who pushed her to shove me into the lake and kill my child? Thomas, you have no conscience." Thomas's expression instantly turned panicked. "Lena, I just hope you'll let her off this time." I glanced at my watch. Airport VIP lounge. Flight departing soon for Switzerland. "Excuse me, Mr. Thomas, but I'm busy preparing for the Global Entrepreneurs Forum and don't have time to argue about these meaningless matters with you." "Lena," Thomas gripped my wrist. "For old time's sake, can't you?" I looked at him for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed. "Old times, the moment you cheated, there was nothing left between us. But on your tender day, you still, Mr. Thomas, still savoring the memory. Pity you're no longer qualified." Thomas turned deathly pale. "A mere peck not only secured the project but also left you dancing to my tune. Not a bad deal." I straightened my collar and smiled. "Oh, by the way, Mr. Thomas attends this forum every year. Why no entourage this time?" We both knew perfectly well that he had been marginalized by the group. "Thomas, we're simply not on the same level now. You're not qualified to speak to me anymore, understand?" The polished floor tiles outside the VIP lounge reflected my upright figure clad in a suit. The assistant followed behind me, maintaining a stern expression. I turned back. "Oh right, forgot to tell you, Mandy, I didn't report the intentional assault incident to the police, not out of kindness, but because letting her sit in jail for a few days would be too easy on her. This outcome now, I'm quite satisfied." Extra chapter. For 6 consecutive months, Thomas drank heavily every day. Treating the bar as his home, he lost his actual power in the corporation, gave up on himself, and never regained his former glory. Right at this moment, the desperate Mandy started clinging persistently to Thomas. Thomas couldn't refuse and once again got Mandy pregnant. Mandy cried, made scenes, and even threatened suicide until she finally married into the Warner family. By now, the title of Mrs. Warner had long lost its former prestige. But for Mandy, she still believed herself to be the winner. At a high jewelry exhibition one day, I returned from abroad and unexpectedly encountered Mandy attending with her baby bump. She had shed her youthful appearance, now dignified and delicate. I ignored her, but she hurried over to me. "This is mine and Thomas's baby. Are you jealous?" I glanced at her jewelry, thinking to myself now, Thomas has fallen on such hard times. She cried and demanded to know why. Someone nearby told her, "This is the owner of the high jewelry exhibition. You didn't even have an invitation, yet you barged in and still have the nerve to act entitled." Thomas knew Mandy and I had this falling out, so he found an excuse to see me. He looked at me for a long time. His emotions were complicated. After a while, he said, "I haven't been in a good state of mind lately." I asked him what was wrong. He told me, insomnia, headaches, always thinking about the past, and even having hallucinations. I said, "If you're sick, you should get treated promptly. I just happened to acquire a psychiatric hospital. Go check it out when you have time." I tossed my business card into his lap. I turned to leave. Thomas stopped me. "If I'm hospitalized, will you visit me?" I thought for a moment. "Visiting you is out of the question. I'm quite busy. But if you die, I can visit your grave." Story 2. In order to prevent the mermaid clan from being massacred, I decided to go ashore and seduce my childhood friend Christian, who had become a top scientist. Sure enough, he still loved me deeply. In bed, he couldn't bear to let me go even after having me for 7 days and 7 nights. I woke up from the pleasure, only to be poured a basin of concentrated sulfuric acid from head to toe. Christian watched me scream in excruciating pain, but he smiled coldly. "So the immortal mermaid can feel pain too. But this pain of yours is worthless compared to what you made me suffer by taking away my parents. This is just the beginning. If you don't tell me where my parents are, you'll never leave." For 2 years, I was forced to watch him marry his wife. He threatened me with the lives of my clansmen, forbidding me to leave. Several times, he cut open my heart to take out the mermaid pearl and used the essence on it to condition his newlywed wife's body. Christian put handcuffs on my feet and ordered me to stay up all night cleaning up the condoms he had used. I also had to listen to their lovemaking, endure the intense pain, and dance on the tip of a knife to lull his wife to sleep. Later, when his wife got pregnant, Christian began to cut the flesh of my mermaid body to supplement his wife's nutrition. He hated me deeply, yet every time I was on the verge of death, it was he who tenderly fed me medicine. "You're just relying on my love for you. Be good and tell me, where on earth are my parents?" I silently felt his contradictory love. Soon I wouldn't have to keep that secret anymore, because if a mermaid goes ashore for 3 years and doesn't return to the sea, she will surely die, and there are only 3 days left until my death. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the wooden door of the storage room was kicked open with great force. I was grabbed up and slapped several loud slaps in the face. The person didn't stop until the corner of my mouth was torn and bleeding. Christian's assistant dragged me out by my legs while cursing, "The mistress is injured, and you still have the nerve to sleep so soundly." The salty and humid sea breeze carried the smell of blood. The bloodstains wound their way into Christian's bedroom. When Christian saw the bloodstains from which I was dragged out, he frowned and said, "Meredith is injured. Go and treat her." I raised my eyes and looked at Meredith. Her face was ruddy with a dewy sheen, and then there was her swollen abdomen. Slap. The next moment, Christian slapped me. He looked down at me. "I told you to treat Meredith. Do your eyes even deserve to look at her?" I immediately lowered my head. "Sorry." Then I slowly crawled to the bedside. Only then did I know that Meredith had gotten up in the middle of the night to feed the mermaid and was bitten on the fingertip. Over the past few years, I had long been accustomed to Meredith's various ailments, so I skillfully lifted my clothes and pierced my heart with my sharp nails. Sweating and enduring the intense pain, I took out the mermaid pearl from my heart to heal Meredith. In the silence, Christian's voice was cold. "Catherine, it's no use for you to play the victim." In his eyes, this was me playing the victim, because the blood of a mermaid could also heal wounds, but my blood now no longer had such an effect. Meredith woke up with a light cough, and Christian quickly stepped forward to hold her in his arms. "Does it still hurt?" Meredith bit her lip and glanced at my chest. "Honey, I don't know why, but after getting pregnant, I feel like vomiting whenever I smell blood." Upon hearing this, Christian kicked me away. "Get out and stand guard." I crawled out bit by bit, listening to the gentle voice of the man behind me. "Meredith, you haven't been sleeping well recently. Is the baby bothering you? Let me listen to it." My heart, which had been calm, suddenly tightened, and more blood flowed from the wound that hadn't healed yet. The maid poured a bucket of stinky water over me. There was disgust and nausea on her face. "Damn monster, aren't you supposed to be able to heal? Why are you still bleeding? It's so dirty." The mop hit my forehead, and I winced in pain. "Clean the floor, or I'll go and find Mr. Christian." I spent the rest of the night bending over to mop the floor. Listening to the ambiguous entanglement in the room, I shed a tear. Christian's expression of disgust towards me was magnified infinitely in my heart. It won't be long, I'll be free soon, even the immortal mermaid will die, and there are still 3 days left. When I mopped up the last drop of blood on the floor, my wound finally healed completely. The people in the seaside manor also started a new day. Christian walked out of the bedroom with little red marks on his neck. He frowned and looked at the mop that had long since turned red. Why is there so much blood? I didn't defend myself. I bowed and explained, sorry, I'll deal with these dirty things right away. Not far away, the maid was cutting flowers and deliberately spoke loudly. You don't know, that monster actually asked me how to make someone happy. God, she wouldn't be trying to seduce Mr. Christian, would she? Hehe, that's for sure. What else could a slut like her expect but to be Mrs. If it weren't for her, how could Mr. Christian's parents have disappeared? I wanted to leave quickly, but Christian was faster. He casually kicked things aside and dragged me to the laboratory. I sat on the electric chair with a maximum voltage of 100,000 volts, feeling dizzy and nauseous. Christian held the remote control, crossed his legs, and his face was gloomy. I almost forgot. I haven't interrogated you for a month. Tell me, where on earth were my parents taken? Before he could press the switch, my hands began to subconsciously scratch the handle, until my 10 fingers were dripping with blood. I don't know. As soon as the words were out, a current of 100,000 volts coursed through my body. I screamed and convulsed, and a hot liquid flowed from my lower body. I was still twitching even after the first electric shock ended. Christian couldn't sit still and asked again through gritted teeth. I spat out a mouthful of blood, and every organ in my body ached. I couldn't say, this was a secret related to their safety. This time, instead of pressing the electric shock again, Christian had someone bring over several mermaid pearls that I had hidden in the cracks of the wooden planks. My eyes widened, and my pupils trembled. What are you going to do? You should be able to guess what I'm going to do, right? Christian curled his lips into a cold smile, threw a mermaid pearl on the ground, and stepped on it hard. Hearing my bloody scream, he laughed. Is this your father's or your mother's mermaid pearl? I heard that to kill you, the mermaid pearl must be crushed, otherwise you'll come back to life. You have a really tough life. Still won't say. My nails had already broken, revealing the white bones. Tears mixed with blood streamed down from the corners of my eyes. Christian, I hate you. In response to me was a kiss from Christian that almost seemed to want to bite off my tongue. Christian's kiss made me feel dazed. I've been getting weaker recently, and I almost forgot how much we used to love each other. The mermaid clan likes humans and often transforms and goes ashore to form a bond with humans. At the age of 3, I met Christian for the first time. The first time he looked at me, he looked up and asked his mother, Mom, is this the bride you found for me? Christian's mother couldn't help laughing and flicked him on the forehead. Later, our two families became good friends and often got together, until I was 15 years old. Because the mermaids were driven away and hunted by humans, I had to leave, but sometimes, I would secretly go ashore to find Christian. When others asked me who I was about to make an excuse and say that I was his sister, but he was very serious. She's my girlfriend and my future wife, Catherine, at that moment. I really fell for him. Later, the mermaid clan completed a deal with a group of top humans. The contact persons on both sides were my parents and Christian's parents. Christian's parents disappeared. I was one of the suspects. I know he hates me, but I can't say. Many years later, Christian also became a top scientist, and I had to approach him for the sake of my clan. Many times, I wanted to tell him the truth directly, but I couldn't. It doesn't matter, though, soon I won't have to endure it anymore. Christian lit a fire with his fingers on my body. He suddenly stopped and looked at the blood on his hands. Only then did I notice that the old wounds caused by cutting the flesh and taking the blood showed signs of recurrence. I smiled numbly. I'm going to die, Christian. But Christian seemed to have heard a forbidden word and went crazy all of a sudden. He rummaged through and found a bottle of pills and forced them into my mouth. His voice was like frozen ice, without my permission. You dare to die. He untied my shackles, pressed my head into the medicine pool, and watched me choke on the water. Christian's eyes were blood red, and he breathed heavily, as if he was the one suffocating. To prevent the medicine from flowing back, I held my breath, and the feeling of suffocation made my face turn blue and purple and swell up. It was only when the powerful healing pills took effect and my wound stopped bleeding that he pulled me up by my hair. As soon as I came to my senses, Christian put the shackles on me again. I was tied to the bedside like a dog by him. Meredith leaned into his arms with seductive eyes. Her gaze shifted, and she looked at me strangely and viciously. Her red lips opened and closed, silently saying to me, Catherine, I want you to die. In a half-asleep and half-awake state, I felt someone gently stroking my hair. The person's tears flowed into my mouth, and they were so salty. Catherine, if none of those things had happened, how wonderful it would be. Was it Christian? Was he crying? I tried hard to open my eyes, but there was no Christian at all. His assistant dragged the rope on my feet and took me to the courtyard of the manor. Mermaids don't like sunlight, especially me who was about to die now. When Meredith saw me coming, she smiled sweetly. Catherine, do you want to eat? Christian held Meredith in his arms. Seeing that I didn't answer, he kicked me. This kick just landed on the wound that was about to burst open. Blood immediately stained my abdominal clothes. Christian was annoyed and didn't want to spare me even a glance. He just threw the trench coat on the recliner over me. Meredith faints at the sight of blood. Cover it up quickly. Meredith's eyes flashed slightly, and then she smiled and threw large pieces of raw meat and muddy vegetables in front of me. Her voice was as soft as water. Catherine, eat quickly. For some reason, I looked up at Christian. Why did I feel that he felt sorry for me? I bent down expressionlessly and bit the muddy cabbage, my fingers scratching the dirt on the ground in humiliation. In my ears was Meredith's concerned voice. Catherine, why don't you eat the meat? Eating meat makes you healthy. You know, without thinking, I tore a piece of meat. My sense of smell was almost gone due to degradation, and I didn't know what kind of meat I was eating. Is it delicious? Mermaid meat is very nutritious. I stopped eating the meat and looked at Meredith. Her smile widened, making my stomach churn. My shoes. The vomit soiled the heels of Meredith's shoes. Without being told, the assistant grabbed my collar and slapped me across the face, which was full of tears. Christian had a serious cleanliness obsession, but at this moment, he bent down and wiped Meredith's shoes with a handkerchief. So gentle, so careful. In the past, after he vented his desires on me, he didn't even want to help me wipe my lower body. At the moment, he was very unhappy. You really don't appreciate kindness, since you don't want to eat. Feed the meat to the dog. Meredith smiled weakly. Catherine is just not hungry. Don't force her. Why don't you let her accompany me to paint? How about making up for her mistake? Christian smiled helplessly. You're just too kind. He looked at me coldly and was about to say something, but was interrupted by a phone call. Christian said something affectionately to Meredith, then gently bent down and kissed her pregnant belly. For some reason, my nose felt a little sour. After he left, Meredith's expression became a little colder. I'm not used to having someone watch me paint. Go and stay in the basement. I didn't say anything and walked to the basement. The maid threw a few small buckets at me. She looked contemptuous and pinched her throat. Hey, the mistress is short of red paint for her painting now. There's no red that looks better than blood. Get 3 buckets of blood now. A rusty blade was thrown over. Use this to cut. I stammered. It's rusty. The maid spat. Do you think you're a young lady from a wealthy family? What good things does a monster that can't die deserve? After that, she crossed her arms and looked at me. I picked up the blade without a word and slit my wrist. The bright red and hot blood dripped into the bucket. It wasn't until I felt cold all over and my lips turned purple that I filled 3 buckets. I leaned against the wall and was lost in thought for a long time. The maid who went to wash a few buckets of clothes gossiped. The mistress's paintings are really beautiful. It's a pity that the materials are a bit hard to find. We had to kill several mermaids to get just a little bit of mermaid pearl powder. Some of the blood isn't pure either. Monsters are just monsters. They're different from us humans. I felt the hair on my body stand on end and stood up, leaning against the wall. I walked to the courtyard with difficulty and first heard ear-piercing wails. Meredith's feet were surrounded by the broken bodies of mermaids. She stepped on a fish tail, cut out a clear mermaid pearl, and crushed it hard. I felt that my heart shattered along with it. Meredith greeted me against the light, the corners of her mouth curving into a malicious arc. Catherine, I just found out today that the color of each mermaid pearl is different. Too bad I only want the white ones. Why don't you help me dig out all their mermaid pearls? I immediately saw my younger brother in the water tank. He was only 10 years old this year and couldn't even transform. Sister, save me. He knocked on the glass, and his tears turned into pearls. Meredith pouted, her eyes full of malice. So he's your younger brother. He's so cute. Why don't we catch him and try first? 2 bodyguards grabbed my younger brother and brought him to Meredith's knife. I could no longer control my emotions. I knelt on the ground and kowtowed frantically. Madam, please let my younger brother go. Use my mermaid pearl. Mine is white. Meredith twirled the knife in her hand. But I just want to open a blind box today. How interesting. Little brother, sister will open yours first today, and then Catherine's. What are you doing? Don't you dare hurt my sister. My younger brother struggled fiercely with red eyes and bit Meredith's wrist. In just a second, he was kicked away by Christian, who rushed over. All his teeth fell out, and he landed beside me. Christian held Meredith to soothe her, and the anger in his eyes almost overflowed. Catherine, you made my parents disappear. And now you want to hurt my wife. I shook my head while crying, shielding my younger brother behind me. I was wrong. Kill me, but spare my younger brother. He's just a child. Hehe, let him go. Sure. Christian's burning gaze swept over me. Tell me where my parents are, and I'll spare him. It was those words again. It was as if all the strength in my body had been drained. For the first time, I looked at Christian with hatred. You don't know anything. You don't understand anything. I've already said that at a certain time, you'll understand everything. Why do you still have to hurt my family? Christian, I hate you. I hate you so much. His gaze shifted away, avoiding my eyes. He pushed his tongue against his cheek and sneered. Fine, if you won't say, then let your younger brother atone for your sins. Everything happened so quickly. Christian swung his dagger and inserted it into my younger brother's heart. I seemed to hear the sound of something breaking. My younger brother's little face was so soft. After losing the mermaid pearl, it became stiff and cold. I sat on the ground, forgetting to plead for mercy. Meredith, with her belly sticking out, came to help me, but she fell down when she was half a meter away from me. She cried, sobbing like a kitten. Catherine, it's just a few beasts that died, but I have a human in my belly. Do you want to kill my child? Christian never believed me, and this time I didn't explain anymore. Yes. I just want to kill you all. Christian was so angry that he trembled. He wanted to teach me a lesson, but then he found that Meredith's amniotic fluid had broken. He took a final glance at me. I'll settle the score with you after the baby is born. I smiled indifferently. You won't be able to find me. I'm going to die soon. I was locked in the storage room, where it was pitch dark. I curled up, feeling my body temperature dropping continuously. The floor above was very noisy. It was Meredith's makeshift delivery room. Meredith cried out for a day and a night and finally gave birth to the baby safely. Christian also relaxed and leaned against the door smoking. The assistant suddenly rushed over in a hurry. Mr. Christian, there are people looking for you at the gate of the manor. At the gate. He raised his eyebrows indifferently. Who are they? Your parents. Christian rushed to the gate like the wind. When his parents saw him, they didn't hug him and cry at the first moment. Instead, they asked anxiously, is Catherine here with you? Take her to the seaside quickly. Without seawater, she will die. Christian's heart skipped a beat, but he pretended not to care. She hurt Meredith, so I locked her in the storage room. Dad, how could a mermaid die? Stop talking about her. Tell me where you've been all these years. Christian's father was like being struck by lightning and slapped him hard. Where is the storage room? Lead the way. Christian led the way reluctantly and opened the shabby door of the storage room. Dad, look, she's okay, right? His parents took a look and broke down in tears. Christian turned around and saw that half of my face had turned into foam. The next moment, he did something unexpected to me. He had a serious cleanliness obsession, but at this moment, he seemed to have forgotten the dirty floor. He knelt on both knees and held me, who was almost disappearing, in his arms. His eyes widened, and he stared at me intently. It seemed that I would disappear completely the next second. Catherine, what trick are you playing this time? Christian's hands could no longer hold my shoulders. The foam was still spreading. My mouth disappeared. He shook his head in disbelief and shouted, don't die. You can't die without my permission. You haven't told me what exactly happened yet. Tears rolled down Christian's chiseled face. He turned to his father for help. Dad, you just said that Catherine needs seawater. Christian's father looked at me with heartache and nodded vigorously. You brat, go and get some seawater quickly. Christian picked me up and rushed outside. I remembered that the underground research laboratory of the manor was connected to the ocean. But it was too late. Catherine, why have you become so light? Christian's words passed through the wind and reached my only remaining ear. I don't allow it. You haven't made it clear yet. My consciousness gradually faded until I fell into complete darkness. Christian put me into the water tank in the research laboratory and watched me floating up and down. At this time, my body was already close to death. Even with seawater, it could only slow down the speed at which I turned into foam. As for my soul, it actually separated from my body and floated out. I knew that in a few more days, my soul would also disappear. I watched Christian collapse and roar in front of the water tank. He was so proud of his talents, but at this moment, he was powerless. After a long time, Christian came to his senses. His red eyes revealed that he was not calm at the moment. Dad, Mom, where on earth did the mermaid clan take you all these years? Were you kidnapped? What did they make you do? Christian's mother used to love me the most. Looking at my mutilated body, she felt a dull pain in her heart, so much so that she gritted her teeth at her son whom she hadn't seen for years. A loud slap landed on Christian's face. This is our good son. Before finding out the truth, he did so many shameless things. Suhui. Do you know that the mermaid clan is the benefactor of us humans? Catherine is also your benefactor. Christian was like being struck by lightning. But I clearly saw the mermaids kidnap you that year. Christian's mother was angry. That wasn't a kidnapping, it was a deal between us and them. Su Hui, some humans have innate genetic defects, while mermaids have the ability to restore them. In order to complete the experiment, secret research had to be carried out. Except for the core researchers of the experiment, no one else knew about it. Back then, we saved Catherine's parents by the seaside. Later, after finding out that you had a genetic disease, it was Catherine who used her own flesh and blood to treat you, so she is your benefactor, and the mermaids are the benefactors of all of us humans. But what about you? What have you done? If it weren't for the fact that the closed experiment wasn't completed, your father and I would have shown up long ago. Christian was stunned for a long time before murmuring, "Then why didn't she say it? Why didn't she tell me the truth?" Christian's father shook his head, his expression solemn. Because there was a traitor. Catherine came ashore just to find the traitor. The laboratory fell into a deathly silence. Only the soft sound of the foam on my body breaking in the seawater could be heard. Christian had his parents sent to the guest room to rest and went to another place himself. There was no light in my storage room, so he carried a small lamp and opened the door to go in. As soon as he entered, Christian wrinkled his nose. He didn't care about the smell here at all when he was trying to save me just now. The wooden planks were slippery, and there was mold everywhere. There was no sign of life here. I didn't have a room before and stayed outside his bedroom every night. Later, when Meredith was pregnant and her maternal instincts were in full swing, she thought it was pitiful that I didn't have a room, so she asked the assistant to arrange a room for me. I never had a quilt. So Christian could only lie on the floor like this. Meredith woke up after giving birth and clamored to see Christian. The assistant searched all around the manor and finally found Christian in the narrow storage room. He was so shocked that his face turned pale. "Mr. Christian, the mistress has been looking for you since she woke up. What are you doing here? Did you assign this storage room to Catherine?" Christian's voice was hoarse, and it was hard to tell whether he was angry or not. These words scared the assistant so much that he broke into a cold sweat. "The mistress said that we need to find a relatively cool and moist room, which is more suitable for mermaids." Gradually, the assistant didn't dare to speak anymore. He knew that Mr. Christian was angry. Christian propped himself up, his hands covered in moss and mold. He gave a cold laugh. "She really is my good wife." My soul floated in mid-air. I watched Christian's every move without any joy or sorrow. Over the years, Christian seemed deeply in love with Meredith. Why is it that now that I'm dead, it seems that he doesn't love her that much anymore? Meredith was weak after giving birth. With a pale face, she tried to lean on Christian's shoulder, but he subconsciously dodged. Christian only felt that the touch of me still remained in his arms. He didn't want anyone to ruin it. There was an unclear look in Meredith's eyes, but she pretended that nothing had happened. "Honey, I just heard that it was noisy outside. They said that Mom and Dad are back. Is it true?" "Yeah," Christian nodded, his eyes showing an unreadable emotion. "Mom and Dad are back. They said that we misunderstood Catherine all these years and that all of this was for research." I leaned in to observe and found that he didn't mention the traitor. Meredith covered her mouth in surprise. "Research? What kind of research is it?" She wanted to know more, but Christian obviously didn't want to say any more. "I'll tell you when you recover. Catherine's condition is unstable now, and I need to take care of her. You can sleep by yourself tonight." I was a bit surprised. He had never said such words to Meredith before. After saying that, he put on his coat and left. He didn't notice that Meredith's face was ferocious and her fingers were clenched into fists. Creaking, Christian called all the researchers to gather in the underground research laboratory. They held a meeting to discuss how to delay my death and resurrect me. The researchers had strange expressions on their faces. They all knew that this was absolutely impossible, until a straightforward researcher raised his hand. "Mr. Christian, the mermaid pearl of the test subject is almost turning into foam. It's absolutely impossible to resurrect her. Why don't we just let it be and let her leave peacefully?" Bang! Christian could no longer suppress his anger and punched the person to the ground. "Who allowed you to give up? If you can't cure her, all of you will die and be buried with her." He punched fiercely, each punch drawing blood. It was not until the assistant pulled the person away, the words that the assistant had held back in his heart were finally blurted out. "Mr. Christian, why are you doing this? You tortured her for so many years and didn't treat her like a normal person at all. Now, don't you think this is hypocritical?" The discomfort in my heart was finally pointed out by someone. "Is this what those humans call late affectionate is cheaper than grass?" Christian's blood surged, and he fainted to the ground. The research laboratory was in chaos for a while and didn't calm down until midnight, at 3 o'clock in the morning. Meredith entered the laboratory with a gloomy face. She opened her red lips. Catherine, I'm here to help you be free. If I hadn't died yet, I would probably be so scared that my heart would be pounding. But now, I can't wait to die quickly. I'm tired. Meredith approached step by step and pulled out a dagger from the hem of her dress. Looking at my foamy body, her smile became more and more obvious. She reached out and lifted me out of the water tank. As soon as I was exposed to the air, the speed at which my body disappeared began to accelerate. Die, Catherine. When the tip of the knife was only 1 millimeter away from me, a hand grabbed the blade. Blood spilled out, staining the water tank red. Before Meredith could react, she was kicked to the ground. Honey, why are you here? Christian looked at my body sinking back into the water, his eyes filled with grief. In the blink of an eye, his face was full of hatred. Meredith, Catherine has no enmity with you. Why do you want to kill her? I'm helping you. Meredith covered her belly, biting her lip and crying. You hate her, and I'm helping you get rid of her. Isn't that good? Besides, she's not human at all. She's a monster. I'm so good to you, but I'm not as good as this lowly thing. Christian sneered, just like he used to look at me, and stared at Meredith coldly. Helping me? You made your own decision to let Catherine live in that dirty place. There's no shortage of livestock in the manor. But you used her blood for painting. Are you really helping me, or are you vicious? I smiled bitterly. I looked at the scar on my wrist that would never get better. So Christian had always known about these things. Now that I'm dead, why is he still pretending to be a good person? Meredith's expression was ferocious. Catherine, you call her so affectionately. Now that you don't need me, I'm the vicious one. But what about you? You watched her get hurt and suffer. Did you help her? Now that she's dead, she can't see you pretending. Honey, I'm the only one who will love you for the rest of your life. Isn't that good? As soon as the words were out, many people entered the laboratory. Christian's father and mother also stepped in with cold faces. A pair of silver handcuffs cuffed Meredith behind her back. Meredith was stunned and couldn't believe it. I didn't do anything. Why are you arresting me? Christian took out a stack of papers and threw them in her face. Just because you're the traitor who betrayed both humans and mermaids. He didn't look at Meredith but raised his head and looked directly at my soul without any mistake. Christian could actually see me. Somehow, I averted my eyes and pretended that nothing had happened. He gave a bitter smile and shook his head slightly. Meredith was pinned to the ground, and her tender cheeks rubbed against the dust. She stared unblinkingly at those reports. Yes, I'm a traitor, so what? Those mermaids all deserve to die. Those who are not of our kind are bound to have different intentions. Don't you all know this saying? Honey, are you really going to settle accounts with me for the sake of these mermaids? Christian took a deep breath, thinking of the results of his investigation. His heart ached. Over the years, he had been blind both in his eyes and in his heart. He had hurt the person who truly loved him and cared for him. But he had kept a truly ruthless woman by his side. Meredith, in what capacity are you saying these words? As a human or as a mermaid? Christian's eyes were extremely cold, making Meredith shiver. No, why do you know that I'm of mixed blood? Who told you? However, Meredith didn't get an answer from Christian. Instead, Christian's father patted his son on the shoulder. Now you believe it, right? At this point, there was nothing left that he didn't understand. These people had been deceiving her. Meredith gritted her teeth in anger, and her face turned red. Sure enough, there is no good person in this world. I don't know where she got the strength, but she actually broke free from the restraint and rushed towards the control panel of the water tank. She pressed the red elimination button with her backhand. Christian, if you don't let me have a good life, I won't let you two be together either. No, don't. Christian's eyes were wide with rage, but it was too late to stop her. The water tank operated rapidly, and the blades rose, shredding my remaining body. Catherine, Linlin, let go of me. Let me go. Without thinking, Christian was about to jump into the water tank to save me, but he was held back tightly. Meredith laughed until tears came out. Her hair was messy and stuck to her cheeks, making her look like a ghost seeking someone's life. Even after the machine stopped operating, Christian was still roaring. Why are you stopping me? Why? No one dared to speak. Catherine, it's my fault. I didn't protect you. Christian looked at my soul again with red eyes. Can you please not leave? Stay here and keep me company. I shook my head. Perhaps because my body had disappeared, my soul also began to fade. I looked at my fingertips. It turned out that the way a soul dissipates is like the bubbles of Sprite. Christian tried to hold my hand, but his hand missed mine countless times. In the past, he had always been very calm no matter what he faced. Now, just because he couldn't hold my hand, he was already in tears. Catherine, please, give me a little more time. Don't leave me. I'm a jerk for doing so many wrong things. Can you stay and watch me atone for my sins to you? Christian's assistant dragged me out by my legs while cursing. My soul dissipated completely. From then on, I no longer existed in this world. Christian stayed in the laboratory for a full 3 days, neither eating nor drinking, and unable to make a sound. When he appeared again, he no longer had the calmness of a top scientist. He staggered and almost fell, and was supported by his assistant. I want to atone for my sins. The genetic medicine jointly developed by humans and mermaids was launched and widely praised, and Meredith, who had almost destroyed everything, was sentenced to life imprisonment. When the authorities were searching for evidence, they found that Meredith often leaked various experimental data by tracking the address. They caught all the related people in one fell swoop, and Christian also took this opportunity to help more mermaids. He released those mermaids that were still undergoing painful experiments back into the sea. In front of others, he was still that reserved Christian. Only when he was alone would he feel regretful and sad. Why was there nothing that could remind him of Catherine? Until everything was settled, Christian went out to sea alone. He came to the sea area belonging to the mermaids. Catherine had once said that this was her hometown. Christian spread his arms and closed his eyes. "Catherine, slow down and wait for me. I'm coming." The end.